The Word of God says, open quotation marks, "Why, Lord, are you so far away, and why do you hide in times of trouble? In his arrogance, the wicked man hunts down the poor. Let him be caught in the traps he has set. For the wicked boast of the desires of his soul. He blesses the greedy and despises the Lord. In his pride, the wicked does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no God. His actions are corrupt and vile. He believes he will never be caught. His mouth is full of curses, lies, and threats. Under his tongue is trouble and iniquity. He lurks in the villages. In hiding places, he murders the innocent. His vigilant eyes watch for the helpless. He hides like a lion in his lair. He lurks to catch the poor. He catches the poor when he draws him into his net. He crouches, he bends down, and with his mighty ones, he falls into the trap." Close quotation marks. Psalm 10 begins with a haunting question. Why, Lord, are you so far away, and why do you hide in times of trouble? This inquiry reveals deep despair and a cry for help in times of suffering. David, the author of the psalm, feels the absence of God amid tribulations. Today, many face personal, social, and spiritual crises, and this same question echoes in our hearts. When the pain is intense and injustice seems to prevail, it is natural to question where God is. This passage invites us to explore not only our pain, but also the depth of our relationship with God, even when he seems distant. David observes the reality of oppression. In his arrogance, the wicked man hunts down the poor. Here, he highlights social injustice and the oppression of the most vulnerable. This situation resonates deeply in modern times, where the powerful often exploit the weak. The pride and arrogance of the wicked are evident in their violence and disregard for those who suffer. For us, this description serves as a warning. We must be aware of the oppression around us and stand against it, following David's example as he cries out to God for justice. David continues to describe the nature of the wicked. The wicked boast of the desires of his soul. He blesses the greedy and despises the Lord. This is a powerful critique of materialism and greed. The wicked become so obsessed with their desires that they lose connection with morality and spirituality. Today, the culture of consumerism and the relentless pursuit of power and wealth often overshadow the need for God in our lives. It is a reminder to evaluate our priorities and question whether we are placing our desires above our relationship with God. David also reveals the mindset of the wicked. The wicked, in his arrogance, does not seek God. In all his thoughts, there is no God. This is a bleak portrait of someone who lives as if God does not exist. In a world where secularization is on the rise and many are drifting away from faith, this verse challenges us to remain steadfast in our pursuit of God. We must remember that even when society ignores God, we are called to seek his presence and trust in his justice. However, hope is not lost. Psalm 10 also teaches us that God sees oppression and injustice. David describes how the wicked hides and watches the poor. He hides like a lion in his lair. He lurks to catch the poor. This image of a predator lying in wait is a powerful representation of how injustice can seem to dominate. But just as a lion waits for the right moment to attack, the forces of evil often seem to have the upper hand. However, the psalm invites us to trust that God does not ignore these situations. He is aware of the suffering, and his justice will be fulfilled, even if it takes time. David cries out, "Arise, Lord, O God, lift up your hand." This plea is a request for divine intervention. In times of anguish, it is essential to bring our concerns to God. This psalm teaches us the importance of prayer and crying out for justice. We must remember that although it seems that injustice prevails, God is listening to our pleas. Prayer is a powerful tool that connects us to God and strengthens us in times of crisis. Psalm 10 ends with the assurance that God will not forget the needy. You, Lord, hear the desire of the afflicted. You encourage them, and you listen to their cry. This is a statement of faith that God is always present and attentive to our needs. He is a God who cares for the poor and oppressed, and he will rise up to help them. This encourages us to continue trusting in his goodness and justice, even when everything seems dark. Application for today's Psalm 10 is a powerful reflection on the struggle against oppression and injustice. In modern times, where social inequality and corruption are evident, this passage reminds us of the importance of crying out to God for justice. We may feel powerless in the face of injustice, but we must remember that we have a God who hears and responds. The first lesson we learn is that it is natural to question God in times of anguish. We should not be afraid to express our doubts and pain to Him, as this honesty can lead us to a deeper relationship with the Lord. The second lesson is the importance of remaining vigilant against oppression. We must be advocates for the poor and oppressed in our communities, making a difference where we can and seeking justice on behalf of those who have no voice. Finally, we are reminded that God is just and always attentive to our needs. When we cry out to Him, we must do so with the assurance that He will hear and respond. Psalm 10 encourages us to trust in God's providence, even when the struggle seems insurmountable.